when wildlife ranger Sarah Collins discovered what appeared to be a snow-covered boulder during her emergency patrol in the remote Wyoming wilderness. She almost walked past without a second glance. But something about the unusual shape made her stop and look closer, revealing a sight that would haunt her forever. A magnificent Mustang stallion buried alive under 3 feet of snow, barely clinging to life after being trapped for days in the worst blizzard the region had seen in decades. What happened next defied every law of nature and survival, as this dying horse somehow found the strength to perform a miracle that would save not just his own life, but the lives of an entire family lost in the same deadly storm. This is a story that proves miracles happen when hope meets determination, even in the face of impossible odds. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more inspiring tales of courage, connection, and the wonders of a natural world. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into Miracle's unforgettable journey, a testament to the power of hope and survival against all odds. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment of redemption that changed everything? Let us know in the comments below. Sarah Collins pulled her snow boots deeper through the drifts as she conducted her emergency sweep of the Teton Wilderness, searching for any signs of the missing Henderson family, who had vanished 3 days earlier during Wyoming's most brutal blizzard in 20 years. The 34-year-old wildlife ranger had auburn hair hidden beneath her winter gear and determined green eyes that had seen too many tragedies in the wilderness, but she refused to give up hope on any rescue mission. The storm had dumped over 4 feet of snow across the mountain region, creating deadly conditions that had claimed multiple lives and left dozens of people stranded in remote areas. Sarah's radio crackled with updates from other search teams, all reporting the same devastating news. No signs of life, no tracks, no hope. Sector 7 clear. Moving to Sector 8, Sarah reported in her radio as she navigated through snowdrifts that reached her chest in some areas. Her breath formed clouds in the minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit air, and even with professional winter gear, she could feel the deadly cold seeping through her protection. Sarah had been searching for 12 hours straight, driven by the knowledge that the Henderson family included 2 young children, 8-year-old Emma and 5-year-old Jake, who had been camping with their parents when the surprise blizzard hit. Every hour that passed reduced their chances of survival to nearly zero. As she crested a small ridge overlooking Beaver Creek, Sarah spotted something that didn't belong in the pristine white landscape. What appeared to be a large, oddly shaped snow mound sat near the frozen creek bed, partially sheltered by a cluster of pine trees. "That's not natural," Sarah muttered, adjusting her binoculars to get a better look at the formation. Something about the mound's shape and position suggested it wasn't just accumulated snow, but she couldn't identify what lay beneath the white covering. Sarah approached the mysterious formation carefully, using her avalanche probe to test the snow stability as she moved. When she was within 10 feet of the mound, she heard something that made her heart stop, the faintest whisper of labored breathing coming from beneath the snow. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed, dropping to her knees and beginning to dig frantically with her gloved hands. "Someone's under here." But as she cleared away the first layers of snow, what emerged wasn't human. It was the frost-covered muzzle of a horse. Sarah's heart sank momentarily before professional instincts kicked in. If a horse had survived under the snow for days, it might indicate a sheltered area where humans could also survive. "Easy, boy," Sarah whispered as she continued digging, revealing the head of a magnificent Mustang stallion with a black coat and distinctive white markings. The horse's eyes were closed, his breathing so shallow it was barely perceptible, and his body temperature was dangerously low. The stallion, whom Sarah would later name Miracle for his impossible survival, had somehow positioned himself in a natural depression that provided minimal shelter from the worst of the storm. His body heat had created a small air pocket in the snow that had kept him alive, but he was clearly in the final stages of hypothermia. "How are you still breathing?" Sarah asked in amazement as she checked the horse's vital signs. By all medical logic, Miracle should have died days ago. Wild horses weren't equipped to survive being buried in snow for extended periods. Yet the stallion was clinging to life through sheer determination. As Sarah worked to clear more snow from around Miracle's body, she realized the horse wasn't alone. The depression where he lay showed signs of other disturbance. Human-sized impressions in the snow that had been partially covered by the horse's body. You were protecting someone, Sarah realized with growing excitement. Where are they, boy? Where are the people you were trying to save? Miracle's eyes fluttered open at the sound of Sarah's voice, revealing dark brown eyes filled with intelligence and desperation. The dying stallion seemed to understand that help had finally arrived, but his gaze kept shifting toward a specific direction, as if trying to communicate something vital. Sarah followed Miracle's gaze and noticed a faint depression in the snow about 20 feet away, barely visible beneath the accumulated drifts. Her heart racing with hope, she grabbed her probe and began testing the area, praying that the impossible survival of one magnificent horse might mean the miracle she'd been searching for had finally revealed itself. Sarah's avalanche probe struck something solid beneath the snow where Miracle's gaze had directed her, and her heart hammered as she began digging frantically in the minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit cold. The stallion watched her every movement with eyes that seemed to burn with desperate intelligence, as if he understood that time was running out for whatever lay hidden beneath the white surface. Come on, Sarah muttered through chattering teeth as she cleared away layer after layer of packed snow. Her radio crackled with check-ins from other search teams, all reporting negative results. But Sarah couldn't spare attention for anything except the growing certainty that Miracle had been guarding something precious. The breakthrough came when her probe touched fabric, and Sarah's trained eyes immediately recognized the bright red material of a high-quality winter jacket. "I've got someone," she called in her radio, her voice cracking with emotion. "Sector 8, near Beaver Creek. I need immediate medical evacuation." As Sarah cleared away more snow, a small hand emerged, followed by the pale face of 8-year-old Emma Henderson. The little girl was unconscious but breathing, her body curled in a tight ball that had helped preserve her core temperature. Sarah's hands shook as she checked for a pulse, finding a weak but steady heartbeat. "Emma, can you hear me, sweetheart?" Sarah called softly as she worked to free the child from her snowy tomb. The little girl's lips were blue with cold, but her breathing was more stable than Sarah had dared to hope after 3 days in sub-zero conditions. Emma's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused. "The horse," she whispered through chattering teeth. "The big horse. He kept us warm." Sarah's heart nearly stopped as she realized what Emma was telling her. Miracle hadn't just survived the blizzard by accident. He had deliberately positioned himself to create a life-saving shelter for the lost family. The stallion had used his own body heat and bulk to create a survival pocket that had kept the children alive. "Where are the others, Emma? Where are your brother and parents?" Emma's small hand pointed weakly toward another area near Miracle's position, and Sarah immediately understood that the horse had been lying across multiple people, spreading his warmth to save as many lives as possible. The stallion had been slowly dying to keep a human family alive. Working with desperate efficiency, Sarah located 5-year-old Jake Henderson buried nearby, also unconscious but alive. The little boy was wrapped in his father's jacket, several sizes too large, which had helped trap warm air around his small body. Like his sister, Jake showed signs of severe hypothermia but was breathing steadily. 2 children located, both alive. Sarah radioed to her command center, continuing search for parents. "The horse. There's a wild Mustang here that appears to have sheltered them." Tom Henderson was found 20 feet away, semi-conscious and suffering from severe frostbite on his hands and feet. The 38-year-old father had positioned himself to shield his wife, Lisa, who was found unconscious but alive beneath her husband's protective embrace. The entire family had survived because Miracle had chosen to sacrifice himself to save them. "This is impossible," Sarah said aloud as she assessed the scene. "Wild horses don't do this. They don't risk their lives for humans they don't know." But the evidence was undeniable. Miracle had found the stranded family during the storm and made a conscious decision to save them, using techniques that no wild horse should have understood. The stallion had created a survival shelter using his own body, maintaining it for 3 days at the cost of his own health. As medical helicopters approached to evacuate the Henderson family, Sarah knelt beside Miracle, who was now too weak to lift his head. The magnificent stallion's breathing was growing more labored, and Sarah could see that his heroic actions had pushed him beyond his physical limits. "You did it, boy," Sarah whispered, stroking Miracle's frost-covered mane. "You saved them all, but now we need to save you." Miracle's eyes met Sarah's one more time, and she saw something in that gaze that would change her understanding of animal intelligence forever. The horse wasn't just dying from exposure. He was holding on, waiting to see if his sacrifice had been worth it, waiting to know that the family would survive. "They're going to make it because of you," Sarah promised. "All of them are going to live because you chose to be a hero." Only then did Miracle allow his eyes to close, his breathing becoming even more shallow as his body began shutting down after completing his impossible mission of mercy. The medical evacuation of the Henderson family became a desperate race against time as hypothermia threatened to claim the lives that Miracle had fought so hard to save. Sarah refused to leave the dying stallion's side. Even as helicopters airlifted the family to the regional trauma center, their survival uncertain despite the horse's heroic sacrifice. Dr. James Morrison, a 45-year-old emergency veterinarian with graying temples and steady hands that had saved countless animals, arrived by helicopter within 2 hours of Sarah's emergency call. He took one look at Miracle's condition and shook his head grimly. "Sarah, this horse should have died 2 days ago," Dr. Morrison said as he conducted a field examination. "His core temperature is barely registering. He's severely dehydrated, and his body has been burning muscle mass to survive. What kept him alive this long?" "He was protecting a family," Sarah explained, her voice thick with emotion as she watched the veterinarian work. 4 people, including 2 small children. He positioned himself to shelter them for 3 days, using his own body heat to keep them alive. Dr. Morrison paused in his examination, his experienced eyes studying Miracle's position relative to the depression where the family had been found. "That's not random placement," he observed. "This horse deliberately engineered a survival shelter. Wild Mustangs don't have that kind of cognitive ability. The logistics of moving a dying 2,000-pound horse from the remote wilderness location required resources that stretched the emergency response system to its limits. A specialized large animal rescue team had to be flown in, along with equipment capable of safely transporting Miracle without causing additional trauma. "His chances aren't good," Dr. Morrison admitted to Sarah as they prepared Miracle for evacuation. "Even if we can stabilize him, the organ damage from prolonged hypothermia could be irreversible. But after what he did for that family, we have to try everything." The helicopter flight to the Animal Emergency Center was touch and go, with Miracle's vital signs fluctuating dangerously throughout the transport. Sarah accompanied him, talking constantly to the unconscious stallion and monitoring his breathing while Dr. Morrison administered 4 fluids and warming protocols. "Stay with us, Miracle," Sarah urged as the horse's breathing became even more labored. "That family is fighting for their lives because of you. Don't give up." Now, at the emergency center, Dr. Patricia Chong, a 52-year-old specialist in hypothermia recovery with black hair, took charge of Miracle's treatment. Her expertise had saved dozens of animals from extreme cold exposure, but she'd never treated a case this severe. The stallion's survival up to this point defies medical explanation, Dr. Chong told the assembled medical team. His body should have shut down completely, yet he's maintained enough function to stay alive. We're looking at a level of determination that goes beyond normal animal behavior. The treatment protocol for severe hypothermia was complex and dangerous. Warming Miracle too quickly could cause cardiac arrest, while warming him too slowly might not reverse the organ damage already sustained. The medical team had to walk a tightrope between aggressive intervention and patient monitoring. "His temperature is slowly rising," reported veterinary technician Maria Santos, a 28-year-old specialist with compassionate brown eyes who had volunteered to stay with Miracle around the clock. "Heart rate is stabilizing, but he's still unconscious. News of Miracle's heroic rescue had spread through the veterinary community and local media, bringing an outpouring of support that overwhelmed the animal center. Donations poured in to cover the stallion's medical expenses, and volunteers offered to help with his recovery in any way possible. But the most important news came from a human hospital where the Henderson family was being treated. Despite severe hypothermia and frostbite, all 4 family members were expected to make full recoveries. Miracle's sacrifice had succeeded. The family he had saved was going to live. He did it, Sarah told the unconscious stallion as she sat beside his recovery stall. Emma and Jake are going to be fine. Their parents are going to recover completely. You saved them all, Miracle. As if responding to the news, Miracle's eyes fluttered open for the first time since the rescue. The magnificent stallion looked directly at Sarah, and she saw something in his gaze that made her believe the miracle of his survival was just beginning. The horse who had defied death to save a human family was ready to fight for his own life, and his recovery would prove to be just as extraordinary as his heroic rescue. 2 weeks after his rescue, Miracle's recovery had amazed every veterinarian who examined him. But the most significant breakthrough came when the Henderson family arrived to meet the horse who had saved their lives. 8-year-old Emma Henderson, still pale from her ordeal but walking steadily, approached Miracle's stall with tears streaming down her face. "He's really okay?" Emma asked Sarah, her small hand pressed against the stall door as Miracle approached cautiously. The stallion's coat had regained its lustrous black color, and his eyes held the alert intelligence that had enabled him to save 4 lives. "He's more than okay," Sarah replied, watching in amazement as Miracle lowered his head to Emma's level and gently nuzzled her outstretched palm. "The doctors say his recovery is the fastest they've ever seen from hypothermia this severe." Tom Henderson, Emma's father, stood nearby with his arm around his wife, Lisa. Both parents struggled with emotions they couldn't fully express. The 38-year-old construction foreman had built a successful career solving complex problems, but he couldn't understand how a wild horse had known to save his family. "We owe him everything," Tom said, his voice breaking as he watched his daughter interact fearlessly with a massive stallion. "Lisa and I were losing consciousness. We couldn't protect the kids anymore. Somehow this horse found us and took over." Lisa Henderson, a 35-year-old teacher with warm brown eyes and a gentle manner, had recovered her strength but not her amazement at their survival. "I remember feeling this incredible warmth surrounding us during the worst of the storm," she told Dr. Chong. "Something large and alive was protecting us, but I thought I was hallucinating from the cold." Dr. Chong had been documenting Miracle's recovery for medical journals, recognizing that they were witnessing something unprecedented in veterinary medicine. Not only did Miracle survive conditions that should have been fatal, but his recovery rate suggests remarkable physical resilience. More importantly, his behavior indicates cognitive abilities we've never attributed to wild horses. The bond between Miracle and the Henderson family deepened with each visit. 5-year-old Jake, initially shy around the massive horse, gradually gained confidence as Miracle demonstrated infinite patience with the children who owed him their lives. "He remembers us," Jake announced with 5-year-old certainty as Miracle allowed him to brush the stallion's neck. "He knows we're the ones he saved." Dr. Morrison had been studying video footage of the family's interactions with Miracle, documenting behaviors that challenge traditional understanding of human-animal relationships. "This horse is demonstrating selective bonding with specific humans based on shared experience," he explained to Sarah. "He's treating the Henderson family as his herd." The most remarkable moment came when Emma had a panic attack triggered by memories of being trapped in the snow. Miracle immediately responded to her distress, positioning himself between Emma and the source of her anxiety while making soft sounds that seemed designed to calm her. "He's protecting her again," Lisa observed with wonder as Emma's breathing returned to normal under Miracle's gentle influence. Even now, when they're safe, he still feels responsible for their welfare. Sarah had been researching Miracle's background through Bureau of Land Management records, trying to understand how a wild stallion had developed such extraordinary protective instincts. There's no record of Miracle ever having contact with humans before the rescue, she reported. His behavior toward your family appears to be completely instinctive. The question of Miracle's future had become increasingly complex as his recovery progressed. Wild horses couldn't legally be kept in captivity indefinitely, but releasing Miracle back to the wilderness seemed impossible given his bond with the Henderson family and his newfound comfort with human contact. He's not the same horse who went into that blizzard, Dr. Chong observed as she watched Miracle interact calmly with the veterinary staff. His experience saving your family has changed him in ways we don't fully understand. Tom Henderson had been wrestling with an idea that seemed impossible but felt absolutely right. What if we adopted him? He asked Sarah during one of their visits. Is it even legal? Could a wild Mustang become part of a human family? Sarah's response would open up possibilities that none of them had dared to imagine, setting the stage for a relationship between human and horse that would redefine what family meant and prove that miracles could last a lifetime. The stallion who had risked everything to save strangers was about to discover that sometimes heroes get their own happy endings, surrounded by the family they chose to protect. The legal process of adopting a wild Mustang who had become emotionally bonded to a human family required unprecedented cooperation between federal agencies, wildlife organizations, and adoption services. Sarah had never encountered a situation where a rescue had created such strong interspecies connections, but Miracle's case was rewriting the rules for human-horse relationships. The Bureau of Land Management has agreed to a special adoption arrangement, Sarah announced to the Henderson family during a meeting at the Veterinary Center. Given the extraordinary circumstances of Miracle's rescue and his obvious attachment to your family, they're willing to approve a private adoption with specific conditions. Dr. Rebecca Foster, a 49-year-old animal behaviorist with short gray hair and kind blue eyes, had been brought in to assess whether Miracle could successfully transition from wild stallion to family horse. Her evaluation would determine if the adoption could proceed safely for both the horse and the Henderson family. Miracle is demonstrating remarkable adaptability, Dr. Foster reported after observing the stallion's interactions with the family. He's maintaining his essential horse instincts while developing trust behaviors typically seen only in horses raised from birth with human contact. The Henderson family had been preparing for Miracle's arrival by converting Tom's construction equipment barn into a proper horse facility. 8-year-old Emma had researched horse care with the intensity of a graduate student, determined to provide the best possible home for the stallion who had saved her life. We got him the softest hay and the cleanest water, Emma explained to Dr. Foster with serious 8-year-old pride. And Dad built him a special stall that's bigger than most horsehouses because Miracle is special. Tom had indeed spared no expense in creating accommodations worthy of the family's four-legged hero. The barn renovation included heated stalls, automatic water systems, and a covered exercise area that would allow Miracle to move freely regardless of weather conditions. This isn't just about providing shelter, Tom explained to Sarah as they toured the completed facility. Miracle saved my family when I couldn't. Making sure he's comfortable and happy for the rest of his life is the least I can do. The adoption ceremony, held at the Veterinary Center with media coverage that brought national attention to Miracle's story, was unlike anything in Bureau of Land Management history. Miracle stood calmly beside the Henderson family as paperwork was signed that made him legally theirs. But the stallion's attention remained focused on Emma and Jake. This horse chose his family before we ever got involved, observed Dr. Chong as she watched Miracle interact with the children. The adoption papers just make official what was already established during that blizzard. The transition to the Henderson farm went smoothly, with Miracle demonstrating immediate comfort in his new environment. The stallion explored his accommodations thoroughly, but always returned to positions where he could observe the family house, maintaining his protective instincts even in safety. He's still guarding us, Lisa observed as she watched Miracle position himself between the barn and the house each evening. I don't think he'll ever stop feeling responsible for our safety. The most touching development was how Miracle integrated into the family's daily routine. The stallion learned to recognize the school bus schedule, greeting Emma and Jake each afternoon with gentle nickering that welcomed them home. He would follow the children around the property like a massive guardian, ensuring their safety while allowing them freedom to play. He's like a horse-shaped big brother, Jake announced with 5-year-old logic as Miracle supervised his tree climbing attempts. He makes sure I don't fall, but he doesn't stop me from having fun. Dr. Foster continued monitoring Miracle's adaptation, documenting behaviors that were unprecedented in wild horse literature. Miracle is maintaining his essential nature while developing domestic behaviors that enhance rather than replace his wild instincts, she reported. He's created a unique identity that combines the best of both worlds. The Henderson family's experience with Miracle had inspired them to become advocates for wild horse adoption and human-animal rescue programs. Tom had started a foundation that funded emergency veterinary care for animals injured during natural disasters, while Lisa developed educational programs about wildlife conservation. Miracle didn't just save our lives that night, Lisa explained to a documentary crew filming their story. He changed how we understand our relationship with the natural world and our responsibility to protect the animals that share it with us. As autumn approached and the anniversary of their rescue grew near, the Henderson family planned a celebration that would honor not just their survival, but the beginning of a relationship that had touched hearts around the world. Miracle had gone from dying alone in the snow to thriving as part of a human family that loved him unconditionally, proving that sometimes the greatest miracles happen when strangers choose to save each other. 1 year after the blizzard rescue, Miracle's story had inspired the creation of the Miracle Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to emergency animal rescue during natural disasters and facilitating adoptions between rescue animals and the families they save. The Henderson home had become headquarters for an operation that was changing how America responded to animal emergencies. We've coordinated over 200 animal rescues this year alone, announced Sarah Collins, who had left her position as a wildlife ranger to become the foundation's executive director. Miracle's story opened people's eyes to the incredible bonds that can form between humans and animals during crisis situations. Miracle himself had become something of a celebrity, appearing at fundraising events and educational programs where his calm demeanor and obvious intelligence impressed everyone who met him. The stallion seemed to understand his role as an ambassador for wild horse adoption and emergency animal rescue. He knows he's special, observed Dr. Chong, who continued to monitor Miracle's health and development as part of an ongoing research study. This horse demonstrates self-awareness and social intelligence that we're still trying to understand. The Henderson family had grown into their role as advocates for animal welfare, with Tom serving on the board of directors for several wildlife organizations and Lisa developing curriculum about human-animal relationships for schools across the country. Miracle taught us that heroism comes in all forms, Lisa explained to a classroom of fascinated third graders as the stallion stood quietly beside her. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is help someone else, even when it's dangerous for you. Emma Henderson, now 9 years old and completely comfortable around horses, had decided she wanted to become a veterinarian specializing in large animal rescue. Her bond with Miracle had inspired a career path that would allow her to save animals the way Miracle had saved her family. "When I grow up, I'm going to help horses like Miracle," Emma announced during a television interview. "He showed me that animals have feelings and thoughts just like people do, and they deserve our help when they're in trouble." Jake, now 6 and fearless around all animals, had become Miracle's unofficial exercise partner, leading the stallion on daily walks around the property while chattering constantly about school friends and his plans to become a horse doctor like Emma, but for little animals too. Dr. Foster's research on Miracle had resulted in groundbreaking publications about animal cognition and cross-species emotional bonding. Miracle's case has opened new fields of study in animal psychology, she explained to a conference of international researchers. His behavior suggests that emotional intelligence in horses is far more sophisticated than we previously believed. The most significant development came when other families who had been saved by animals during disasters began contacting the Miracle Foundation, seeking help with adoptions and sharing their own stories of animal heroism. Miracle's story had given them permission to believe that such extraordinary bonds were possible. "We're seeing a pattern," Sarah reported to the Foundation's board of directors. "Animals who save human lives during emergencies often develop permanent attachments to those families. Traditional wildlife management doesn't account for these emotional bonds." The Foundation had successfully lobbied for changes in federal policy that allowed special adoption procedures for animals who had performed life-saving rescues. Miracle's case had created legal precedent that protected the rights of both rescue animals and the families they had saved. The Miracle provision has made it possible for dozens of families to adopt animals that save their lives, explained Senator Patricia Williams, who had sponsored the legislation. "These relationships represent something profound about the connection between humans and animals that deserves legal protection." As winter approached and the anniversary of the rescue drew near, the Henderson family prepared for their annual Miracle Day celebration, which had grown from a private family observance into a national awareness event that raised funds for animal rescue organizations worldwide. Every year on this day, we remember that miracles happen when beings choose to help each other survive. Tom reflected as he watched Miracle playing gently with neighborhood children who had come to meet the famous rescue horse. Miracle didn't just save our lives. He showed us how to live them. The stallion who had been found dying in the snow had become a symbol of hope and courage that inspired people around the world to believe in the power of compassion to overcome impossible odds. Miracle's legacy would continue through every animal rescued, every family reunited, and every life saved by the foundation that bore his name. As snow began to fall gently outside the Henderson home, Miracle stood peacefully in his warm stall, surrounded by the family he had chosen to save and who had chosen to save him in return. The horse who had proven that miracles happen when love meets determination continued to demonstrate daily that the greatest miracles are the ones that last a lifetime. Miracle's incredible journey from a dying horse buried in snow to a beloved family member and international symbol of hope proves that the greatest miracles happen when beings choose to sacrifice for others, even at the cost of their own survival. His decision to use his body heat to save the Henderson family during the worst blizzard in decades didn't just preserve 4 human lives. It revealed the extraordinary intelligence and compassion that animals possess when faced with life-or-death situations. The bonds formed between Miracle and the Henderson family demonstrate that love transcends species boundaries and that families can be created through choice rather than just biology. Their story has inspired changes in law, policy, and public understanding that will protect similar relationships for generations to come, proving that one act of courage can ripple outward to transform entire systems. Today, the Miracle Foundation continues to coordinate emergency animal rescues and facilitate adoptions between rescue animals and the families they save. Miracle himself remains healthy and happy at age 12, still serving as proof that when we choose compassion over self-preservation, we create miracles that benefit everyone involved. This story is a powerful reminder that miracles happen when we open our hearts to the impossible. Whether it's rescuing a stranded horse or simply showing compassion to those who need it most, these acts of kindness teach us that no one is beyond saving. If this tale touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of hope, resilience, and the incredible bonds between humans and animals. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that even in the fiercest storms, there's always a chance for renewal. And let us know in the comments, what lesson did you take away from Miracle's journey? Thank you for joining us today. And remember, sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in silence.